Are we live? Are we live? Okay, go ahead and get your things ready. We're going to start art class right at 1 o'clock. I do want, just in case you didn't see this, we'll be going over a drawing segment at the very beginning. So in case you had younger ones, I saw we had a lot of new people this week. So in case you had younger ones, that drawing section sometimes can be tedious for them. You can go ahead and print out the printable and use that when we get to the coloring section, which would be have a little bit more process. Or if a parent wanted to join along and they were helping someone, they could print it out and they could go along on there. So other than that, you'll need some rubbing alcohol. If you don't have that, baby oil or Vaseline will work. You might remember that from another lesson. And some colored pencils, paper, pencil, and just get ready to start. So, okay, happy Monday. It's another awesome week of art lessons. And this one I'm super pumped about. I noticed we had a lot of new people that we're going to be joining in today. So welcome. I'm Kijsa Houseman. I'm a professional artist, and I've been a professional artist for my entire career, which is a long time, about 25, 30 years. And I have all... My sound needs adjustment. Can y'all hear me if I move it up here? Thanks for letting us in. Does that sound better, everybody? You'll hear me just, oh, I'm wearing a collar. Maybe that's it, because I'm wearing a collar. Okay, are we good? Are we good on sound? We good? Let us know if there's anything else. But I know these are for all ages, but some people have kids that don't want to spend as much time on the drawing because I really do like to instruct you through everything. So if you have younger children, I do have a printable on Facebook for our lesson today and our lesson tomorrow, which is going to be the colorful giraffe. I never do this. I'm going to give you a sneak peek. So this is what we're going to be doing tomorrow. But there's a printable on there in case you want some help. So I'm going to stick those to the side. So back to welcome to art class. My name's Kijsa Houseman, and I own a really cool art studio in Paducah, Kentucky called Make. And we do all kinds of art classes, lessons, fun here, and we do them for all ages because I love art. I love learning about art. I love making art, and it's so good for us in this time especially, but really good anytime. It makes your brain think differently, makes your hands do different things. It helps you in other aspects of learning, school, job, work, all that good stuff. So today we're going to do a super traditional artist whose name is Gustave Courbet. And we're going to do his apples. So we're going to work on drawing those first. And then onto our drawing, we're going to be doing a colored pencil technique. If you have younger kids, it's a super fun process because it actually changes the medium. So that's a great time for them to play. If you have older kids that will come in with the drawing, or I know we have a lot of adults that watch too, you'll enjoy that drawing aspect of it. So we're going to learn a little bit about our artist and when he was working. So he's a 19th century French artist. So we're talking born in the early 1800s, dies in the late 1800s. He is called the father of realism. And it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. Things look realistic. He loved to paint from real life. Now, that's what I tell y'all all the time. Let's paint from real life. Let's draw from real life. But this at the time, again, mind-blowing. This is what makes these artists pretty famous. So everyone's going, what? We love everything just being perfect and not really real. It reminded me a little bit when I was preparing your lesson. You know how models go and get their hair all styled and it's all perfect? Well, what Gustave Courbet, he didn't want to paint a perfect model's hair. He wanted to paint a home haircut going on right now. So he wanted to paint the bangs off to the side and the shaved head. He wanted to paint what was actually there, what was happening around him. So it went from these romanticized paintings and drawings of, things that don't really happen to apples on a table. So that's where we bring it to today. Now, why is this important? Because this time starts changing art forever, all the way to today, to crazy. This is really the start of modern art. So it doesn't seem like the graffiti on the streets could tie into this, but Gustave Courbet, he's a pretty important guy. So let's talk a little bit about shading apples and doing apples. So we're going to draw our apples first, and what we're going to do is we're going to use our shapes to draw. I will let you erase if you want to. If you're new, I always talk about not erasing a lot because young students start, old students, new students start, and they immediately start erasing. But there's no need because that might be the perfect line. Until you have your whole drawing together, you don't really want to remove any of those lines because it might be the information that your eye sees that your brain is telling you to put down. So Tate is joining us today. Tate, you want to bop on up here? And we're going to be sketching our apples. This is actually on the sheet you're going to be working on. We're going to draw our apples out. You can use a colored pencil to draw them out, or I'll be using charcoal just because you can see it better. But go ahead and do that, and we're going to start working with our apples. Tate, if you'll draw yours below here. Now, my kids were laughing. They go, this looks like a pumpkin. This does not look like an apple. But this is actually an apple. It's just a bumpy one. So we're going to draw. And if you look at the apples, they're all pretty much like circles. So we're going to make a group of circles where the apples are, and then we're going to come in. Again, if you have young kids, don't worry. We'll jump to the colored pencils, and they'll love that. So let's go ahead and make a circle right here. Now I'm going to darken that in so you can see my circle. And I'm going to start my apple grouping with the one in the very front. So I'm going to start because this is in the very front, and then I start building everything around it. So I'm just going to put my circles in so we can find it. So we've got one up here on the top. So let's put a circle a little bit behind it. We've got a circle there. So we've got a circle right here. It kind of looks like we're building a snowman a little bit. Then we're going to come over, and we've got another apple right here. So we're going to add part of a circle. It's going behind this first one. Let's add that circle there, right there. And if your kids have the printable, have them even do this because this will help them follow along. Then we've got, let's go to our next guy. We've got a circle about here. So you see I have 4 circles. I have my one in the front. Kind of, we could draw a little face. It'd be a little turkey. Boom, boom, boom. So we've got one in the front, one right here, and one right there. Now we have 2 more apples because in our picture we've got 6 apples. So let's go ahead and draw this one over here. Let's add a circle over there. And then we've got one hiding way in the back right here. Right there. So you should have 6 circles on your paper. You see where we are? Okie doke. So we can go ahead and start. Let's go over this. We started with that front one. We came along behind. All the circles are about the same size, if you notice. This one's right here. Then we came over to the side. Then we came over to the side. And then we've got this one. So now we're going to just do those little details. Do you see on here, Tate, where the little details are? Let's start making those from circles into apples. Again, we're just trying to do the outline and a little bit, maybe a few lines to be our guidelines. What do you think, Tate? A few lines to be our guidelines? Okay. So let's do that first one. The one, do you think that looks like a pumpkin? No, you don't? So it has a little, we're going to go for that dark spot right there. So we're going to put a dot right at the top. Here we go. Yep. So we've got all these. We've got our circles here. We're going to be finding all those dark spots so we know where the bottom or the top of our apple is. So if we look at the picture, Tate, can you point to where, can you step back so they can see the picture? Can you point to where the dark spots are on this one? You see it right there? Now where, yep, and there's some, now where is the one on that one? Right there. So let's put that one, oh, you see them all? Can you help me by putting some dark dark spots where they go. So this one's up at the top. It's going to be over there. Yep. Now, where's this one right here? It's right at the top. So we've got our 6 circles, and what we're doing right now is we're putting where the bottom or the top is. On an apple, that's where all the shading comes from. If you remember, I did a lesson on shading apples, and we really talked about light source. That's kind of what we're going to end up talking a little bit about, but really we're going to have a lot of fun playing with colored pencils. So, okay, where is, Tate, can you point to it on the picture where it is there? Up, right there. So let's do this. So on our first 4 circles, we should have found our dark spots. Can they see that on camera okay? Okay. And Tate, over here, do you see a dark spot there? Can you show me where that is? Right there? Okay, so kind of towards the end. And we can barely see it in that picture. It's up at the top. So right now, we've got our 6 circles. Okay, you want to sit down for a minute? And then we'll get ready to color in a minute. So we've got our 6 circles that we did going around. Is everyone good? And then we found where all our dark spots or our stems or our bottoms of our apples are. And then we're just going to start adding a little detail and get ready for our colored pencil. So see on our dark spot right here, right there, is there any glare on it? Right there, so they can see that. We've got a few little things right here. So we're going to add some detail. We notice it comes in. It gets a little bumpy and comes down to that center part right there. So come in that way. And then we notice it's bumpy through here. See how we've got that? And we notice our side slants a little bit. We're looking for those details right there. So I'm adjusting my lines as I go around from the circle. So we're going to come down and we're going to make it come out a little bit because it comes wider. See how it goes narrower at the top and wider at the bottom? So we're going to do that with our circle. This is the one that has the most in it. So we've got those funny shapes of got these details right here. We're going to get those bumps. And then we're going to say, that one's about ready for colored pencil. And we're going to do a little bit as we go around. Let's go to that one at the top. Remember, we did a circle first. It's pretty much a circle right here, but we come down a little bit at that top part. That's going to give it that apple shape. And other than that, we pretty much keep our circle. This one's going to do the same thing. So we've got our dark spots, where we've got our dark spots on all our apples there. So let's do this here. And this one comes a little bit wider. So we're just going to keep that circle line and come out. Look, we've got 3 Gustave Courbet apples already. 1, 2, 3. By emphasizing and just changing where those circle lines are a little bit, noticing those details, you can end up changing those. Do we have any questions, Talia? Are we doing great? We're doing good? Okay, great job, guys. So really, we don't have too much more to do on our drawing. We're almost prepped for our colored pencil. But let's just go ahead and look at them. So we added more detail to this funny first apple right here. This one we kept pretty round, except for that little notch on the top and the dark spot. This one we've got a little notch here, and it comes down around. So, and then this one pretty much stays round as a circle. We're just going to emphasize that dark spot in the middle right there. Give it a little more dark spot. And I'm going to darken it up because it pretty much stays our round apple there. So we've got our 4 that we started with at the very beginning, and they're going to be ready to go. So if anyone needs me to review any of those, let me know. Otherwise, we'll move on to these. This one just elongates a little bit, which means we stretch the circle. So we're going to keep that right there where the dark spot is. We're going to add a stem. And then we're going to keep the circle the way it is. So we've got our dark spot right there with a little bit of a stem, just a little line that comes out. And then we're going to push the end of the apple just a little bit. Just elongate it. See, just come a little bit past your circle there. And that apple is ready to draw on too. And then our back apple pretty much stays as is. We've got our dark line right here, our dark spot for where the apple would have been attached to the tree. And it stays like that. So we have our apples drawn. So now we're going to add just where the shadow lines are. Okay? So you see how we have some shadow lines? That's going to help us really see where our apples sit. Okay? So let's add, we've got a shadow line that comes out a little bit right there. It's a cast shadow, if you remember, because it's cast from the light. So we've got that shadow right there. You don't have to color yours in. I'm just going to show you where it is so you know that's a shadow. Okay? You see how that goes? We've got a little bit more shadow right here. Cast also from the light, so it's going to come around like that. I'm going to fill it in just so you know. You don't have to fill it in. You can just leave the sketch line there. We've got a tiny little shadow right there. And it gets dark in between those. So let's shade that. And we come in right there. I'm just letting you see. So we have a cast shadow. It just comes out a little bit from this apple. Then we've got another one there. And we've got this one here. Kind of anywhere they're coming together and we have a little bit where they come together and just where they connect, we've got a little bit of darkness. And then because the light is coming this way, we've got a shadow that goes off to the side over there. So all the way, we've got shadows. Uh-oh, Tate. Did you find... What? Talia just sent me an awesome note. I think we have a 7th birthday. Ariba, happy 7th birthday to you. Oh, happy birthday yesterday. See, this is what my cool crew does. They help me out. My crew are my children. If you haven't figured out, Talia's on the computer answering your questions. Keaton's behind the camera. And then Tate comes up and helps me do demos. So happy 7th birthday. You're 7 years and 1 day. So, okay. So I hope your apples, Ariba, are fantastic. God bless you, Tate. You just sneezed. So we've got, basically, I'm going to go over it real quickly. Oh, we have another. Talia just waved her hand at me.
Erica would like to know, where is our horizon line in this?
Erica would like to know, where is our horizon line? 100 bonus points to Erica. Because your horizon line is where what we basically say the sky meets the land, or where your subject ends and then the atmosphere begins. So if we look right here, it might be hard for you to see at home, but you can see very subtly there is a little bit of change in the darkness. It's very hard to see. So your horizon line would be back here behind the tables. What would the horizon line be on this subject? It would be the end of the table. So the table that the apples are sitting on. So we don't see it because it's behind the apples. Okay? So that way, I think we've got all our sketching, we've got our drawing, we've got basically, we're now, if you printed out the printable, we're now where you would be with that right in front of you. And hopefully you could go over the printable, you could see how we changed those lines from circles to there, or you did it yourself and you drew right on your paper. So we're going to switch it down. Tate and I are going to switch to the table, and we're actually going to use some drawings that I put out so that you can see it, because we're going to have to press into it. For this part, you're going to want colored pencils. Now we're going to stay pretty true to the colors that Gustave Courbet used. We're going to use reds and yellows and browns and blacks. But by all means, this is your artwork. If you want purple and pink apples and that makes you happy, then you go for it. We're going to put a little bit of alcohol. So if you see me dipping in this tub, you need any kind of rubbing alcohol. It really doesn't matter the percent. 70% and lower, if you were going to buy it at the store, would be the best, because it doesn't take as much of the pigment off, but 91%, 99%, they work fine too. You also need, if you don't have rubbing alcohol, we used one in a oh, I like how you've got your pencil ready behind your ear. We used, no, this does not hurt your pencils at all. We actually won't put anything on your pencils. And this is a tool that professionals use all the time. So anybody you feel comfortable using rubbing alcohol can use it, as young as you want. And what's happening with the process is we're going to color with the pencils, doing a little bit of shading and blending. And then we're going to apply the alcohol with a cotton swab or anything you have to put on it. This usually works the best because you can rub it in. Oh, we have a question.
In place of rubbing alcohol, could you use hand sanitizer?
You know what? Hand sanitizer is pretty much a majority rubbing alcohol. So why don't you try it and let us know? I haven't actually tried hand sanitizer because it has the gel in it. I don't know what it will feel like on your drawings, but that is a great question. So the question was, can you use hand sanitizer instead of alcohol? Since it has a lot of alcohol in it, and alcohol acts as what's called a solvent, which means it will dissolve what is there. So your colored pencils are color and wax pretty much. This works differently depending on what type of brand your colored pencils you have. I mentioned this before. This is my favorite. This is my baby. This is my colored pencil set I've had since college. It's had a hard life, but is well used. I use this still if I'm doing a proposal for a company. I still use this same set. I'm missing a lot of pencils at this point, or I've used them up. But this is 29 years old, and I love these pencils. They're amazing. So Tate is using a variety of ones we found in the studio. We've got Crayola. We've got some other brand. I don't know what this is. It says Sanford Colorific. What does that say on there, Tate? Color, it just says color pencil. So whatever you have, so you're going to see the different things. So Keaton, do you want to come to the table? And everyone should have their alcohol with them. Or if you don't have it, you can still color. You ready? And we're going to put this, I'm going to turn mine around. Tate can leave his facing that way. I'm going to pull my colored pencil set over here. And then what is easiest? Why don't I put this here? Sorry guys, we're going to get set up real quickly. And I'll put this over here. So, okay, watercolor pencils are different than colored pencils. You can use watercolor pencils, but instead of a solvent, you would use water to blend them. Colored pencils are made of wax and pigment, and watercolor pencils have a different, what's called a binder that keeps it together. So you can use your watercolor pencils, but instead of rubbing alcohol, I would use water. You can use rubbing alcohol with watercolor. It will spot it in really, really cool ways. So let's go ahead and we're going to start coloring. And I'm going to show you really mainly on this one apple right here, because it's going to give us the best definition with a lot of color. So I'm going to show you up here because look, we've got this dark. Can you see this just fine, Keaton, on here? And you've got the dark coming all along here. Then you have dark around here, and then see how it gets light in the center. So I'm going to pick some colors accordingly. So I'm going to pick a dark color. I'm going to pick a brown. I'm going to pick a medium color. So I'm going to pick a red. If you're doing this in pink or blue or green, whatever you want to do it in, you're going to look for a darker version and probably a black or a brown as well, no matter what. So I'm going to kind of shade them in. And Tate's picking his out. Let's see how I'm shading them. I'm going to take some of yours, Tate, here. I need a bright red. There we go. Do you have a bright red? Okay. So we've got those. And let's go ahead and see what happens. I just dropped my colored pencils, but okay. So we're going to color with our dark right in here. So just take your darkest color. We're just going to fill that in. It's going to shake them at this table a little bit, Tate. And I'm going to shade in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shade in a spot about this big. You see how I did that? I'm going to shade in. Now, lots of times I will hold my pencil on its side to go more quickly so that it will move like this. Do you see how can you see that, Keaton? Where do I need to hold it? There. Right there. So what I do is I hold it to the side almost like you're gripping it. And then the reason I do this is then I can press down on it. You can still color it like a pencil. It will work just fine. But if I want to color an area quickly, I turn it to the side. Now, if you have younger children, have them make those marks that they make them in different ways. So if they turn it to the side and rub it, you can have them rub it just like that. If they turn it on its end, that discovery process is great for any age, but especially young hands that don't have as much dexterity. So we've got our dark spot in there. So take it all the way. Can you come a little bit closer, Talia? That would probably be helpful. Thanks, babe. Okay, so we've got our dark spot right there. Good job, Tate. So we've got our dark spot right there. Then I'm going to take my second color, and I'm going to come around here, and I'm going to fill in this area right here. So this is my second darkest color. So I'm going to fill in this area. So you see, Tate, we're going to come in about right here and fill in about that big. Okay? So I'm going to fill it in there. So we're basically filling this side and leaving the center. See how that works? I'm going to go all the way to the end. So right now you think, normally when you're coloring, you're thinking you're going all over the place, but we're going to fill in all the different parts of this apple. You want to borrow mine? So he's going to color in. So what I did was I colored in. I'm going to leave some Q-tips right there. I colored all in right here. And then I've colored in right here. And then we're going to leave this section. See this? Can you see this circle right here? And then this circle right here. Those we're not going to color in. We're going to leave those right now. And I'm going to color in red everywhere else. Okay? So I put two big circles here, and I'm going to color around those. So crayons won't, you can certainly color with crayons, but crayons won't melt the same way with this solvent. They won't blend the same way as the colored pencils will. But crayons are great to color in with because you're still learning a shading technique as you do this. So I left those. Did you leave? Yep, you have your circles there, and we're just coloring in. Now, I'm going to color over everything with some red right here. I'm just going to go crazy. Doesn't matter. That's the nice thing. Crayons, colored pencils, markers, you can layer all of those. Okay. I am going all the way to the edge with that. I did with the dark color, yes. There is a little bit of cast light, but when we start moving this around, I'm going to add a little more of my dark color. When you start moving this around, what happens is the alcohol actually melts the pigment a little bit. It'll feel a little bit more like painting when you get in. So, good job. I'm going to let Tate, can you see Tate colors, his coloring too? Tate, you want to move yours in a little bit? I don't know how to get you any closer, baby. Actually, you know what? Come here. Come right here. Can you see that, Keaton? Can you see that on camera? Why don't you come? Yeah, you can lean against the table and do that. So I'm going to add a little more red. You cannot put too much red. You can't put too much of the colored pencil. You can keep adding and adding and adding. There are different types of colored pencil blending techniques, and most of them require adding lots and lots and lots of color. The more you add, see when I do it different ways, it'll add more color. The more color you add, the better this technique will work. But you don't want to ever really press so hard it hurts your hands. You want to just press hard enough that you're getting color on there. Okay, do you see how I colored over those sections? So already we have some blending. And I'm going to add one more color now. Tate has his. And then we're going to start playing with our alcohol. So I'm going to add a yellow because really I see a lot of yellow. Do you have a yellow to use? Ooh, that's a good one right there. It's kind of a greeny yellow. So I'm going to come in our bright spot. I'm going to leave this white. I'm going to come in our bright spot. Oh, I think my yellow just broke. So I'm going to use what I can on there. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of that yellow around. So Tate's filling his yellow in. So we had a dark color here. We've got, I did my red all in. We've got another color. You could have put the same one, but I went with a different, not quite as darkest, darker, dark, and lightest. I probably could say it a different way, but so we've got darker here. I've got my red around here. This is a brown. This is kind of a medium brown right here. And then I left the two spots. We're going to leave that one white, and we're going to leave that one yellow. So, Tate, yours looks great. And I colored over all of mine. So do you want to grab a Q-tip? So I'm going to grab a Q-tip. I'm going to dip it in my alcohol, get a little alcohol on it. And I'm going to just start where I first started painting.
Someone wants to know what they should do if they're coloring outside the lines.
Oh, I love it if you're coloring outside the lines. Just keep coloring.
Is there a way to cover it?
Well, you can always come around with a darker, just like we did with the acrylic painting. You can come around with a darker, like if I went way outside of the lines, I could just come around with a darker color just to pop that. See how I do that? But I kind of like coloring outside the lines, so we're going to use the alcohol and you're going to rub it in, and what will happen is you'll watch it start to blend. You see it? You'll see it the most when I come into this yellow. So I'm going to wait for it to see how it starts to blend and come in there. Can you see that on camera, Keaton? As it's starting to move it in? Mm-hmm. Yep. So when I bring it into the yellow, it's breaking down that binder, and you have to go over it a couple times, but it'll start feeling like paint.
Is there a way to erase colored pencil?
There is not a great way to erase colored pencil. So what I say is don't worry about erasing it, just adjust your design and think of a way you can add into it. You can also color over it. So can you see how it starts to melt that colored pencil? Really start to melt it a little bit and move in together. It's kind of making this little squeaky color around here. So, and the more you do it on these sides, it starts getting rid of those lines, and it starts, can you see it on how much it's picking up on my Q-tip right there? It starts blending it in. Kind of makes a little squeaky color. Now here's the nice thing. If you decide you want some more color, you can come back right on top. It doesn't matter. You can do it right on top and add that color in there. So sometimes you have to wait till it dries all the way. I'm going to come in with a black now and kind of get this dark where our dark is right there. Good. Anywhere I want to make it a little extra dark, I'm going to add some black. So I added a little bit more there. just along those edges. And then I'm going to blend that in. So, now here's where, remember how I colored that outside just to demo? This will really show you. See how it melts that color and moves it along? Because that was on white, so I knew you could see that really well. So it actually melts the color, and the more I rub into it, can you see how that brings out more color? So that's what's going on in here. How are your apples coming? You have any questions? This is...
Is printer paper okay to be doing this?
It is. It helps if it's a heavier paper. This is like a cardstock weight we're working on right here. What will happen is you'll notice the alcohol will make a little ring on your printer paper, but you still can do it. Just apply more, be a little bit heavier with your colored pencils so you build up the wax. So.
Can you draw on it after you put on the
Yep.
alcohol?
So we're going to let that alcohol dry, and we're going to do that funny one right there, and this funny apple that looks like a pumpkin. And then what we're going to do is come back and touch this one up, and then I'm going to leave these for you to just play with. So let's do that funny one. I need some greens. Do you need some greens? Well, let's do green on that one. Can you hand me my colored pencils, baby? So, yeah, let's grab some greens here, Tate. I've got some greens. Over here. Oh, there goes a green. That's a good green right there. Okay, so I'm going to do this in greens and yellows, so hopefully it shows up differently, and you can see it working in another way. So, we're going to go to this one right here. We've got greens in here is our darkest shade. So I'm going to come in there with a dark green, and remember on our drawing we kind of drew this part out. So I'm going to come in there. Here it is on the printable, and I'm going to shade that in. It's that dark line right there.
What would happen if you were to put pink in with the red?
Oh, pink, it would just change. It would make the red more pinky, but you certainly can. You can put pink right in there. There are lots of real pretty apples that are a pinky red, so that would be a great choice. So what I did was I came along this line and I kind of made this streak right here. Yep, Tate's filling it in correctly too. What a great job. Good job, Tate. So now we're going to come over here and we're going to fill in this section right here. So I'm going to use that same color. You see where that is? Yep, you're going to do this section right there. So I'm going to fill that in. I have like a dark greeny brown right here, but you can use brown, you can use a dark green. This is your own piece. So blue apples, colorful apples, you know, the Fauvists loved color. We have modern art with changing everything. It's so much fun. So then we're going to get that dark spot on the top. Okay, you got that dark spot? Now it looks like it has two little horns right there. Go. See how we're going to emphasize those little spots. So we just kind of emphasize this. Can you see that on the camera? Okay. Just emphasized it coming out these little ways, kind of like little spider lines. Okay. So let's see where Tate is. He's got green right here. We've got some spider lines. All right. So I'm going to pick a lighter green and I'm going to cover over all this section right here, even the spots I've drawn on. So why don't you use this green? That'll be perfect. So I'm going to take and I'm going to cover from here all the way down. I'm just going to cover over that whole thing. So I even went over the others, so I'm going to make sure that color gets in there a little bit. Just covering over everything. I'm going to have a bright green apple. I like to eat red apples better than green apples. Do you like red apples or do you like green apples? Are there yellow apples? Yep, so basically, we've got a good portion, like this half over of our apple. Not quite half, but almost is colored, and we've got 2 colors on there.
Are you going in with your lightest color or no?
No, we're going with our medium. So I did a dark and a medium and a light. I'm going to do only 2 on there. I'm going to use yellow for my lightest. So with my medium, here's my darkest right here. Here's my medium. And then right here, along here, I'm going to take my medium color and I'm going to come up here. So right about here, Tate, like here, is going to be our medium. Okay? Kind of making that extra. What about foam hand sanitizer? The only thing I would worry about foaming hand sanitizer if you were trying to use it is you get so little, so you might not get enough alcohol in there.
Also, can you mix colored pencils to make other colors colorful?
Yes, so if you want to mix colored pencils to make other colors, you just layer right on top. So I'll show you right here while everyone's getting caught up on their apple. So I put a lot of votes for, so I put, see where I put my orange over my blue and I start getting a brown color. Do you see how that changed? I did this color right here. When they're talking about mixing, and then I did an orange. Here's my orange right next to it. But when I put that on top of the blue, I'm getting more of a brown. See how you can make those new colors? So, okay. Now I'm going to cover this whole thing, the entire apple, using my lightest color. So I'm not really worried about a highlight on this one. So I'm going to use a yellow, and I'm going to color my whole, over every single thing, my whole apple. And then we'll be almost done, and I'm going to let you, so think of any questions you have. I'm going to let you finish this one. I know I'm going to have some gorgeous pictures of apples that come. So I just covered the whole thing. So I've got my darkest color right here, 2 spots, my medium color all over this section and right here. And then I just went with my lightest color, which was a yellow, all over the whole apple. And Tate's got his all colored. And let's see what happens when we go in with the alcohol. Do we need some more that don't have red on them? Here we go. So we're just going to start working our darker ones together. Now notice when it blends, you should see a lot of that yellow coming up if you use these colors. Or you should see a lot of your lightest color coming up because that was the last color you put on top. So see how they start blending and moving together? And those lines, it almost becomes like painting. Yeah. Blend that all in there. Oh, Tate, that looks great. And as you start mixing where you've put the ones on top, it'll take you a little while to get down to that bottom one, but you'll start seeing it appear. So I have 3 colors layered on top of each other over here on my darkest spots. I can just start blending those all around. And it will blend. So, you keep on with that. I'm just going to go back into this one so you can see how you can layer. I'm going to add some dark in there, a little bit darker. You don't have to do this with me. I'm just going to show you because remember we've already added our alcohol. So you can keep layering. If you want more red, you can come in there with more red. Adding that all around. If you wanted to come in with the pink, you can add anything you're going to add is going to give you those shades. So I'm going to come in with. So see, I'm just layering on top so you can see what happens as we add more and more and more. It will. Okay, then blot it and let it dry. If you have a pooling on your paper, just blot it with a paper towel or a napkin, paper napkin. Or if you have like a cotton ball or your Q-tip, if it's not that big, you might be able to pick it up with your Q-tip. So see how I'm just coloring and adding. This is when really young ones can just start adding more and more color and seeing what happens as you add it. So I just keep going and going. The more colored pencil is a medium you can layer and layer and layer. And the more you layer, the more colors you make. So it's really neat to let younger kids play with that and adults. And remember, you want to press hard, but you never want to press too hard that it hurts your hand. I'm going to add a little bit of purple in here. Hopefully you'll be able to see that come up. Just because I'm adding up as many colors so you can maybe see on camera how it will change and adjust. So now I'm going to add more alcohol into it and watch it blend. It all blends in there. So you'll see that purple move in. So what happens is as I add more and more layers of colored pencil, it'll keep going and going. And you can just keep playing and you can add the alcohol and then let it dry. As it keeps coming up and coming up. So, okay, Keaton, you want to bring it on up? And Tate is making his own colors. And as always, there's Tate's. As always, if they start going off, if any time, either you as an artist or if your children are participating, if they start going off and coloring, let them do it. Because that means they're exploring with the medium. They're doodling in their heads. They're getting those expressions out there. Eventually, what will happen is their concentration level will increase in trying to do that, or their brain just might need a break because this is a lot of information. This lesson was pretty intense with drawing and the colored pencil, and I know how talented y'all are, so I can't wait to see this and see how you brought those different layers. Now, the more colored pencil, it's one of those things. Some mediums you don't want lots and lots and lots on. But colored pencil is one of those that the more you color and the more you add and the more you layer, the more blending happens. And blending is when two colors become more like one, or they move subtly and you don't see the lines in between them. You can do that with a pencil, but by adding the rubbing alcohol, it melts that wax and helps them blend together. So you get that look. So I hope you have enjoyed this lesson on Gustave Courbet. Let me know if the printable helped. That was something I wanted to try this week for younger kids because this one really was an 8+. And tomorrow with the drawing, the coloring and the painting is suitable for any age tomorrow. But if anyone gets lost in the sticks in the drawing, sometimes you just get lost in the grass and you're like, help, I can't find my way out. I'm still drawing and I want to get to the fun. So I don't want anyone to get frustrated. As parents, if any time you notice your child getting frustrated, just have them take a break. We post the videos to Facebook afterwards. They can watch back and rewind. We also post them to YouTube at Kijsa Houseman. And Talia will put that on the comments if you want to go back and watch them. I will say, if you have a young artist and you're new to this one and you haven't watched our lesson on drawing apples, that is a fantastic one to go back to and learn about light source and understanding some of the concepts of shadows and drawing. It's fantastic. So it's a Monday today, guys. Tate was a little bit tired today before class, but I think you did a great job. Tomorrow we're coloring giraffes. I will say this, on Wednesday, that is literally the most fun lesson ever. We do that in the studio all the time. I can't wait for you to join us. Any age group can come in. My children are turning their glasses on upside down to make Tate smile. But Wednesday, it's so fun. I mean, any age loves it. We have entire families come in and they're just dying to do it because it's a blast. We've got a great lineup this week. We're going to be making colorful giraffes. Grab your watercolors and your crayons and your watercolor paper. There is a printable if you need it. This was a long lesson. You held up pretty good. Thanks to my daughter, Talia, Keaton, my son, Tate, my other son, for a great lesson. And thanks to y'all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Art is man's nature. Nature is God's art. Bye, guys.